Our case originates with Michael. Michael is an instructional designer that's trying to implement a game into a middle school science curriculum. The game is called Wrigglefish. Wrigglefish is a genetics-based science game, whereas students make predictions and otherwise use inquiry-based principles to make predictions and form hypotheses about what would happen to different fish as they bred and how their evolution proceeded. The data from the case study revealed three trends about the teachers in Michael's district. First were buy-in issues, whereas some teachers had negative attitudes or had misconceptions about the use of gaming technology. The second trend was a lack of knowledge. First, theoretical knowledge about cognitive processes and how to link or utilize gaming technology in order to target a select cognitive process in instruction. The last trend we saw was issues in implementation, whereas teachers were otherwise not very confident in their ability to implement and execute lessons that contained gaming technology. We identified the teacher as the primary learner in this professional development instructional design. We designed our curriculum around the three main issues. First is teacher buy-in. We want to raise awareness about gaming technology. We also want to address common misconceptions and create more motivation and affect regarding the use of gaming technology in the classroom. Next, we want to increase theoretical knowledge, both about learning processes and also about locating specific gaming resources that fit specific processes. And then third, implementation. How do we effectively put those strategies and gaming tools successfully into the lesson plan? Our solution was to create a generalized professional development unit about the use and implementation of gaming technology. We made this generalized so that all teachers could benefit from it because we believe that gaming technology can be utilized across the curriculum in many different subject areas effectively and to meet multiple ends. We also created an online and asynchronous environment because we know teachers are very busy and trying to plan professional development time may take away from other job or life responsibilities. So both the online and asynchronous environments allow the maximum opportunity for flexibility in the course. Now, one negative side of the online environment is the sometimes cold and faceless experience. We try to circumvent this by creating a digital online community, whereas people will interact with other people taking the course, and also will be moderated by certain professionals and the instructional designers to provide mentorship and help facilitate conversation among people so that people can go and get live support and also get some emotional support from other teachers. And as we previously said, we've broken it down into three modules. The first module regards buy-in. So what is gaming technology and why is it good? How can it be used? Second is a theoretical overview of the cognitive processes and how we compare specific games to specific cognitive processes. And then lastly is the implementation of gaming technology in lesson planning. How do we do it responsibly and effectively?
For our instructional unit, we chose to divide our content up into 3 modules and host them online in a learning management system. We chose this asynchronous format because we recognize that teachers don't always have common planning time, and so asynchronous professional development is necessary if we want to allow for teachers to collaborate and don't want to take up time before or after school, which can decrease motivation. Prior to Module 1, teachers will take a pre-assessment through SurveyMonkey. Even though it's through SurveyMonkey, it's still hosted on Schoolology, and we're hoping that that pre-assessment will give us, as instructional designers, a better idea of where holes are in teachers' understandings of the different ways that video games can be used in the classroom, and also reveal any areas of discomfort that they may have with actually applying them to their own contexts. The learning objective for the first module is that teachers will identify at least 3 instructional benefits to using games in the classroom. We chose this learning objective because there is a stigma of games and their influence on children existing not just in the educational world, but in the world in general. And we want to break down that game and help teachers to realize that games can be used as a force of good. They can be used in an educational context quite successfully. We also recognize that there's a lack of knowledge and understanding about what types of games are available and how those games can actually address content standards. Furthermore, many games today actually can provide assessment data that can be used to inform instruction as well. The first task of Module 1 provides teachers with an opportunity to explore a high-quality educational game from the point of view of the student. So we just wanted to provide teachers with a game related to their content area. So there's a game for math, a game for science, a game for social studies, and one for ELA. They choose the game that they want to explore. They play it as if they were a student. The math game that we chose is called Prodigy, and it's a free online game. Students follow through this storyline, and as they go and cast spells and battle monsters, they have to solve math problems periodically. So what we're hoping that teachers get from this game is that it's engaging, it's a lot of fun, kind of reminds you of an old school role-playing game. But at the same time, as they cast a spell, they have to solve a math problem, so it has that sort of reinforcement. There are also some neat tools built within it. The pencils that are over on the side, students can actually use to draw and show out their work on the tablet if they're using a tablet. So it does provide some neat tools within the game too to help them to solve those math problems. And then at the end of the game, they get rewards and get leveling up, which should add to the level of engagement as well. The second game that we're asking our teachers to explore is called The Branches of Power, and it's a game through a website called iCivics, which provides a lot of different game resources for social studies teachers. So hopefully they get hooked to this one and want to go explore some more. But in this game, they actually play from the point of view of 3 different politicians, one from executive, one from legislative, and one from judicial. They have to create their character, so to speak, that includes assigning them with certain values that they aren't allowed to act against. So that kind of adds a complexity to the content understanding. And as they go through, they have to pick the issues that they want to promote, as the executive branch, for example. And you'll notice that all of these issues are kind of kid-friendly issues, so students should be able to get behind it and kind of have fun playing around with those. They see their issues go from just being an idea all the way to being a bill, and then eventually being upheld by the judicial branch. So it goes through the different stages of creating a law and upholding that law. And then when they finish the round of the game, it will give them a final score. So there's a little bit of a competition benefit in there, and also some information for the teachers to have a sense of what they were able to accomplish in their gameplay. The third game is called Disaster Detector, and it's a science-based game through the Smithsonian Education Center. And like iCivics, the Smithsonian Education Center has several different science-based games for teachers to explore, so hopefully they'll enjoy this one and want to peruse some of the others. One of the things that I think teachers will notice as they're playing this game is that, again, the graphics are engaging, the storyline is engaging, the strategy behind it is interesting, and students will enjoy playing it. From the teacher point of view, there's a lot of good data reading, which is a key skill in science. You'll notice that over on the side, there's an anemometer, a thermometer, a barometer, and a seismometer. And the students have to continually monitor that data to see what disasters are potentially going to happen and prepare against them. Now, as students may not be familiar with reading all of that data, especially in a live time kind of scenario, there's a lot of information that provides them with some help so that they're not just, shooting in the dark. They can hopefully understand the rationale behind preparing for them, the ways that they need to prepare, and predicting these disasters as they come. At the end of the round, it gives you a summary of everything, of all the disasters that happened, what preparations you took, your overall rating with people, and what money you had left over. So it gives you a lot of information about the choices that you made during the game after you've played it. The final game that we chose for our teachers is called Argubot Mars, and it's a language arts focused game. One of the neat things about this game is that it teaches students a very difficult skill, which is argumentative writing. We hope that teachers will, one, notice the engagement factor in the game. There's a pretty complex storyline that they have to guide their person through, so the kids are going to enjoy playing this game. But also that as part of the game, they have to create these claims and then support them with relevant evidence. And then to take it even a step further, they have to look at an opponent's claim and see whether their evidence is relevant. So, again, for teaching argumentative, it's a very good tool. In the second task of Module 1, teachers will watch a review video for their chosen game that brings to light some of the educational benefits. So, for example, in Task 1, we just wanted them to experience the game and see what their kids would see, feel that sort of engagement in playing the game. In this task, we want them to understand the real educational benefits behind them, in particular, some of the behind-the-scenes things that go on in these games. Prodigy and Argubot Academy, for example, both have good reports behind them that detail where students are based on their understanding of standards. So there's a lot of data that can be provided from students' play of these games. Prodigy also has a diagnostic placement test that actually differentiates the questions that students receive based on how they've answered previous ones. So it adjusts what questions students are exposed to based on that. iCivics and Disaster Detector both have printable summaries that tell you a lot about the moves and the decisions that students made as they were going through them. So we want teachers to not only experience the games for the engagement part and the part that their students will love of them, but we also want them to be exposed to the teacher tools that are available as students play these games. For the third task, we wanted to provide teachers with an opportunity to reflect and participate in collaborative discussion about Task 1 and Task 2. So we want to focus their discussion on ways that those games could actually fit into their curriculum. What would their kids do? How would they respond to it? And how do they think that these games in particular may or may not address their curriculum needs? We do want to provide an opportunity for them to express concerns with using them. Many of the teachers in our case just had issues with management or expressed concerns about classroom management using games, and also expressed concerns about how they may or may not hit the standards. And so we want to give our teachers an opportunity to express those concerns so that we can hopefully address them as the module continues. Again, the module will be hosted on Schoology, so this gives you a picture of kind of what it looks like from the teacher point of view, what they would see. It's important to note that they can't complete the next task without completing the one previous to it, so they won't have access to that discussion board until they have completed Task 2. In the fourth task in Module 1, teachers will watch some videos about the various benefit of educational games. So this is where we bring in a little bit of the research component to it. These games are focused on many different topics, but basically look at brain development and how brain development is impacted positively by playing games. It also looks at the development of collaborative skills, skills that are necessary for 21st century learners. So we look at the positives of games from a research standpoint at this part. Each video is also embedded with questions that check for understanding. So we've used Edpuzzle to piece together some of those questions, and we've provided an optional guided notes page to help focus teachers' understandings as they read or watch through the videos. This is a screenshot that shows you what our guided notes looks like. It's a couple of pages, but again, it's an outline kind of format so that teachers are able to focus what they're trying to get out of each of the videos, or what we want them to get out of each of the videos. The final task in Module 1 is what I call a fast check, and it's a summative evaluation tool that will allow us as instructional designers to touch base with the teachers at the end of this after they've viewed the videos, they've played the games, they've seen it all. Do they get what we want them to get out of the module? Are they recognizing 3 different ways that games can influence their learning outcomes in classrooms, and do they still have concerns about the value of using these games? We need to have this check at the end because teachers will not be ready for the second module unless those issues have been resolved, unless they can recognize ways that games can influence learning. So we have to overcome that hurdle first before we're able to release Module 2.
Module 2 is a theoretical overview of cognitive processes, as well as an introduction to pairing gaming technology in order to meet or target a specific cognitive process in the instructional process. Before students start, they will download the companion guide, which you will look at in a minute. Companion guide is think of it as a guided notes, whereas they will be able to complete it throughout the course of all of these tasks in the module, and they'll submit it at the end for completion. Task 1 is a theoretical overview specifically of cognitive processes that we will be discussing in this module, such as recall, elaboration, organization, application and generalization, inquiry base, as well as non-academic things like classroom management. Task 2 is nonlinear in nature. We will break down each of those aforementioned cognitive processes, and students will be able to poke around at their own interest at specific processes that they would like to learn more about. Each will have a very short review of key concepts and then demonstrate a specific game that will go along with that process. Task 1 is very much centered on the cognitive process. Task 2 is very much centered on the game that goes along with the process. Task 3 is enrichment, which means that it's optional. Students will get a nice database of games that we've compiled, and we've been broken them down into category based on cognitive process. Task 4 is somewhat of a review, as we go over the key points, and we have a short review assessment, which students will take before completion of the module. And then task 5 is a community discussion, and rather than having a student regurgitate a fact or something that they learned, try to make more of an open-ended discussion-based question, whereas specific struggles that teachers are anticipating, or the mentors and instructors can help along with other people taking the class, and maybe people that have previously completed the class can work together to collaboratively address people's problems and provide solutions that they can use in their own classroom. A key component of Module 2 is the companion guide. The companion guide is meant to be a unified resource that combines all of the tasks inside Module 2. It presents an order of sequence and routine for people who have a hard time self-structuring their own learning, especially in a distance environment. It also provides a space for key terms and ideas and acts as a guided note to help participants follow along with the instructional material. It also provides a permanent resource so that students can use it for review for the assessment, or even to look back after the completion of the professional development in case they wanted to go back and look at anything that they had learned previously. This is worked on during the first tasks in Module 2 and is submitted by the end of the second module during or after they take the post-assessment test. Task 1 involves two materials. First is the companion guide, and second is the introductory video, which you can find on the Task 1 page. The introductory video is to provide theoretical background knowledge about the cognitive processes we'll be discussing in this module. This includes maintenance rehearsal, elaborative and organizational learning, application and generalization, inquiry-based learning, which is what Wrigglefish, which is the source of this case study, is about, and also using for non-academic means such as classroom management. In Task 2, we will be applying what we learned in Task 1 by seeing each of these processes demonstrated using a specific gaming tool. Task 2 takes each individual cognitive process and breaks it down into its own submodule to be examined in more depth. Teachers may look at these in any order. For the sake of time, we'll be looking at one, which is recall. Each module will begin with a very short presentation covering the key concepts from Task 1 with some corresponding questions on the companion guide. An instructional game is also paired with each cognitive process. For recall, we've chosen Grand Prix, which is a multiplication game, whereas people can create games with other classmates or against other people or the computer, and they race around a track by answering multiplication questions correctly. They go faster by answering them right, they go slower by answering them wrong. The good part about this game is not only is it teaching fluency by encouraging both speed and accuracy, at the end of the game, it does an error report, whereas you can see how fast a person's going and what sort of errors they made. So not only can you do error analysis, you can also do some progress monitoring because there's a set amount of problems, 48, and you can see how quick the person gets around the track. So that's a cool feature. Our third task is an enrichment task. So it's optional but highly suggested for learners to spend as much or as little time as they want exploring more games sorted by cognitive processes. Task 3 is a library of games, which we have found throughout the creation process of this instructional design unit, and we have categorized them into the cognitive processes that we had discussed in tasks 1 and 2. This gives teachers the opportunity to find more resources and test out other programs that help target specific learning processes. So they can either, one, learn more about the learning process and how the game affects it, or two, find more resources that target a specific learning process, which they can immediately take and use in their own classroom. The module concludes with tasks 4 and 5. Task 4 is a review activity, whilst Task 5 is a community application activity. Task 4 is a short review, including a short video and review guide covering the main topics of both Tasks 1 and 2. There will also be a few final review questions on the companion guide for Task 4, which will be completed and submitted at the conclusion of Task 4. The second half of Task 4 is a short summative assessment where participants will have the opportunity to show what they know and have learned in this module regarding a theoretical overview of cognitive processes in gaming technology. Task 5 is a community discussion board, whereas after a participant has completed the module, they can have some time to reflect, and then even after reflection, they'll have an opportunity to then come onto the board and think of some concerns that they have about implementation. We decided to make a real-world question rather than a review-oriented question in the interest of discussion and collaboration with the other participants. Both the designers and certain mentors will be there to help facilitate conversation, but the actual participants themselves are also encouraged if they have a solution or if they have an idea to help another participant that has posted about an issue, they're strongly encouraged to do so.
This module is meant to be completed by teachers asynchronously over a 4-week period. It will not be released or made available until after the first and second modules are completed. This module is positioned at the end of the unit so teachers can put their understanding into practice. They will draw on what they learned from modules 1 and 2 to evaluate and determine which gaming tool they might consider using to inform instruction. As stated at the beginning of this presentation, we understand the timing restraints teachers have, so the instructional strategies chosen for the modules are similar to the first and second. Resources to complete the lesson plan are clearly laid out for the teachers, and they have to view them in order before moving on to other material. Visuals and links are provided to help clarify the topic and increase understanding. So let's get started on talking about Module 3. To continue with the professional development format, the third module provides additional resources and support for teachers to learn how to develop their own game-based lesson within their content area. The learning objective is to have them identify a content-appropriate game and integrate that into their lesson plan and curriculum. The rationale behind this was also discussed in our case analysis. We found that teachers are the primary facilitators of the gaming technology, so they need to have a solid background knowledge about it, as well as positive attitude to increase buy-in. Many of the teachers also have low confidence with actually designing gaming elements and integrating them into the curriculum. So we thought that with the appropriate professional development, they would feel more prepared, and they'd also have additional opportunities to practice and share ideas about gaming in the classroom with other teachers. The first task is to review the Where to Start guide, which is provided as a PDF within a task on materials, and then you can use this to help you along in Module 3 as you research preferred games. This is only a guide, and you should adjust it accordingly to meet your needs based on what you find best fits your scenario. The Where to Start guide can be used alongside the learning activities to help determine the purpose of integrating a game into the content area curriculum. Choose and play the game to ensure it is aligned with the learning goals, objectives, and standards. To determine ways to ensure students have adequate time to play games to benefit them the most, and to recognize ways to assess student progress to inform instruction. Also within the guide, teachers will be encouraged to explore various options for game-based learning in their classroom. Additional resources for gaming sites are provided. Comments are enabled so teachers can reply to posts, but it is not required. Throughout this process, you may come across content that is not right for you, but may enrich the lesson plans other teachers are developing. Please use the enrichment discussion forum to post ideas, suggestions, and resources. After exploring gaming resources and using the content in the guide, teachers will choose and post their game of choice. If this game changes later on after having some realizations, teachers can just come back and update it. As noted, this is here so everyone can quickly view and reference the games others chose. We'd like to encourage people to choose a game that others have not selected yet. There are certainly enough games available online, so there should not be duplicates. Teachers are asked to post the grade level and subject they are targeting their lesson for. An example is provided. Comments are enabled so teachers can reply to posts, but it is not required. In Task 3, teachers get to practice and apply what they know. They will create a lesson plan based on what they learned and found through their searches. We know most teachers have their own technique to planning out a lesson, but a flowchart is provided to guide the teacher in the process. Once completed, teachers will post a lesson plan to the discussion forum and participate in a discussion with at least 2 other peers from their content area about their choice in educational games. We decide not to make specific to content areas since there will be so many great ideas shared between everybody. Instead, teachers are asked to state the subject and grades their lesson plan is intended for at the start of their post. There is an example provided, such as grades 5 through 6, math. When the instructional designer views the lesson plan, they will look to see if the teacher has an understanding of the course material. Did the lesson plan's content directly correspond to the teacher's purpose for integrating the game? Was it aligned with the appropriate learning goals, objectives, and standards? A key element is to ensure the lesson plan and the game of choice is fun for the students, encourages engagement, and has the learners more motivated to learn about the content. For task number 4, a key component of successfully implementing gaming in the classroom is brought up. It is suggested that parents are kept informed to ensure they have information about which gaming technologies are being used, how they are being used, and how it can benefit their child. Within the task materials is an example of a letter that can be sent home to parents explaining how game-based learning will be integrated into the classroom. Teachers are also encouraged to view the letter and modify it to meet their classroom needs and goals, or generate their own message. Within the letter, the teachers share how parents will be kept informed in the Friday newsletter, which is sent home and also posted on the class website, so they will know more about gaming resources and how they will be used during the next week. This gives parents a chance to check out the game over the weekend and then talk to their child about their game use during the week. These newsletters will share benefits with parents so they also have greater buy-in to the idea of integrating games into the curriculum. The Parent's Guide to Educational Technology, which is attached, could also be a valuable resource to share with parents to help them better understand technology jargon as gaming becomes an integral part in their child's schooling. Comments are enabled so teachers can reply to posts, but it is not required. Finally, task number 5. Teachers will complete a brief Think, Pair, Share online about the most interesting thing they learned during Module 3. The teachers will already be paired according to the content area. They will first print or download the form and complete the think portion on their own. Then, for step 2, pair, teachers will meet with their assigned partner online through a collaborative video conferencing resource that has a recording option, and then decide together what to share with others on the discussion forum. This should be completed fairly quickly, just like a traditional think, pair, share session would be in a classroom environment. As stated on the LMS, the responses on the forum and discussion from the recording will be used to provide the instructional designer with insight about teacher learning and solicit opinion on the module material, so their feedback is especially valuable. Comments are enabled so teachers can reply to posts, but it is not required. As teachers become more familiar with the process of integrating games into their curriculum, it will be easier to see how this approach to instruction can have students more engaged in their learning, class attitude improved, and content reinforced in ways a teacher cannot do alone. It will become more natural to incorporate games into their plans every day and not see it as an addition, but as a natural integration. Until then, this module design provides a space for teachers to post any concerns or questions about content or technical issues as they progress through the modules.